do a podcast because it's good for your personal growth. It's good for you to have those conversations either with yourself or with others because it helps you to grow. Me then introducing the other person, it gives benefits to that person of getting access to a new potential audience. Yes, you should produce content because producing content gives you attention, and with this attention you build an audience, and then with this audience you can reach people who you actually can bring the value to. Second, if you have a conversation of 1 hour, automatically you're going to have a lot of different topics you talked about, which you can then turn into snippets and use them for the content productions. And in the same time, a podcast gives you the opportunity to then connect with guests who are always experts in specific fields, which go in alignment with life design. They can share inspirational stories, motivational stories. The other person talking to me and sharing that conversation with their audience gives me the opportunity to kind of like dig into their audience. After 1 hour of talking, let's say you have 5 snippets which you can then use to advertise that podcast. Building a podcast, building an audience with the content from that podcast, and then really connecting with people I want to connect with. Community you build to help them to move forward. Network you build to cooperate and get nice things done together. You need both. One is basically the people who are learning from you, and the network is the people you are learning from and creating new stuff with. The goal in general is to only do the things you like doing, or at least to only do the things that you in a certain way enjoy and you see a value in doing like long term. Even I see the value in doing like shorts in the form of creative work. It's really, really time consuming, right? To write the script, to then record the different sections, then to edit it and all of those things. And so I believe it's not really a fundamental source for content, but more like an additional source for content of like, okay, let's have a creative day once a week or whatsoever, writing some creative scripts, recording it and like putting it in the system. But it's not something I see of like, okay, I can do like one nice like creative reel every day without of becoming like a full-time content creator in a certain way, because then it's like you going in this direction and then this is your focus, and then okay, you can do all that stuff, but then you really need to develop the passion for it and so on. And I could in a certain way, but looking at the bigger picture for me, now it's the key takeaway in a certain way, is if you have a podcast and you have obviously you have a certain niche, you have a certain audience, and a podcast, in my opinion, like if you have a conversation with somebody or even like if you have a talk by yourself, it helps you to improve your self-development. So it's like it's good for you to have those conversations either with yourself or with others because it helps you to grow. So it's already like a check in, let's say, personal development, self-development, because it's supportive in this area. Second, if you have a conversation of 1 hour, then automatically, if this conversation was not super boring, you're going to have a lot of different kind of topics you talked about, which you can then turn into snippets and use them for the content production. So after 1 hour of talking, let's say you have 5 snippets which you can then use to advertise that podcast. Then like I gained a little bit of a new perspective or updated perspective on content creation in general, because I zoomed out, and for sure I got inspired by podcasts, by YouTube videos, and by other people who already developed that kind of perspective. But I zoomed out, and in a certain way I like this perspective of producing content in a certain way as a type of like multiplicating yourself. Right now there's only one Nuri, and one Nuri can talk with one person in the same time. I cannot talk to like I can have a Zoom call with 10, 100, whatsoever, many people, and then you can scale that as well. On an timely bending perspective, I can now have a conversation with you and not in the same time have a conversation with somebody else who is not here and taking part of this. But if I produce content and I put that out, then basically I have a lot of small copies of me sharing one specific perspective on life, which then is accessible through social media and co for people like 24/7. So I have a lot of Nuris then over time running around and repeating what I said once. So that's the beauty of content in a certain way. Then on the other side, beside like now we have the self-development perspective, which is saying like, okay, do a podcast because it's good for your personal growth. Then We have the content perspective of like, yes, you should produce content because producing content gives you attention. And with this attention, you build an audience. And then with this audience, you can basically have reach to the people then who you actually can bring the value to that you want to share. That's like the third part. And in the same time, a podcast gives you the opportunity, if you build it to a certain degree, to then connect with people much more easy that you would like to connect with. You don't have to tell them about the whole vision and everything. And you can just tell them, yes, I run a life design podcast and there I'm sharing like my story and taking people on my journey with NTK, our community and everything. And I'm also having like guests introducing on this podcast, and those people are always experts in specific fields, which in alignment with life design, or they created the life they really like, they're really passionate about, and by that they can share like inspirational stories, motivational stories, and so on. Then in a certain way, you really want to focus on building a podcast, building an audience with the content from that podcast mainly, and really connecting with people I want to connect with and having them convinced to jump with me on a call and have like a conversation, which then can be shared again on the podcast, on my podcast, and if the other person might have a social media or whatsoever as well, then also on their channels. And by that you can actually really then grow and collaborate on a minor level already. Me then introducing the other person, it gives benefits to that person of getting access to a new potential audience, and the other person talking to me and sharing that conversation with their audience gives me the opportunity to kind of like dig into their audience. I think I'm gonna go for podcast long form, then short form snippets from the podcast itself, and producing more content on the side, automated content and so on. But as a core of my work and my approach, so now I just need to find my energy again to talk about the things I believe in. To be honest, right now, it feels not right to talk about life design and how to create the life you really love and desire while being a little bit mind-fucked about my current situation. Even, yeah, I still have the life I desire, but in my current situation, it's like unnecessary, or I don't understand, I don't get it, why it is what it is. And it takes me quite a little bit of time to arrange myself. So yeah, it's always energy. For me, it's always energy. Like if my energy is low, I cannot produce anything. If my energy is high, I can talk with you for 3 hours, and in these 3 hours probably generate like a lot of value. And I'm doing my work and I'm creating a lot of things, but there's a lot of just like writing things down, preparation, not doing the actual job. I'm doing the work. We really need to find and structure for the categories, mindset and communication, or call it just mind. And I think the categories I have now is mind, body, brain, heart, and business. So basically going more on what to train into yourself. Like what are the resources you have? You have your body, which is your physical appearance and your kind of like your avatar of moving around in this world. Then you have your brain. Your brain is connected to your skills and knowledge, where you save all the things you know or you believe to know, and the skills you create by educating yourself. Then you have your mind. Again, it's your beliefs, your belief system, the way you look at things, the way you understand life and its circumstances. Then you have your heart. It's basically then your relationships, how to look at communication then as well in there, and develop connection to what love actually is for you and how do you feel about interconnections and stuff. And then you have business, which is basically, or business or wealth, which is basically then like the result of aligning all of those areas with one another and creating value out of this, and then through business structures and systems distribute them automated as possible to generate value out of it, focusing basically on body, mind, brain and heart, and from there creating the business. This is your inner system: heart, brain, mind and body. That's your system. That's the system you need to work with for yourself to do the things, to have the life you want to live for yourself. It's like, it's really focused for you. Like, what kind of relation do you want with others? How do you define your values to create those relations? Like really your inner work in separated basically in those 4 categories: workout, nutrition, meditation, mobility. What are the things that improve my body and by that my all over quality of life? Mind. What are the beliefs, the stuff that I can change, the programs in my mind which I can change to get closer to where I want to go, how I want to feel? Brain. What are the skills and knowledge that I develop that help me to move forward, and what are the skills and knowledge I might need to develop further to move forward? Then heart is like really, how do I feel? Like how how strong I'm connected to myself and who I really am, and do I feel love for myself and others. So there we go more into self-love, relationships and all of that part. And then business is basically outside of you, because now it's about, this is you, and now it's about to connecting your personal journey, so everything you do in this environment, and connecting it with the outside world through entrepreneurship. So that is basically the self-development part. And now the outside part is entrepreneurship. How do I now use my self-development that I divided in those different categories to create value out of that, so that I can really in the future only focus on me and to feel better and to become the version that I want for myself to be? And how do I then pack it into systems, products, solutions that actually help the people, which again is then relationships part, like who do I want to be surrounded by, to help those people achieve the same results, achieve the same mindset, achieve the same learnings, gain access to the things that in my circumstances I invested, let's say 100 hours to understand something, and then I develop a product which in 2 hours explains really well exactly the same thing. So you don't need to go do research and everything for like 100 hours or longer, depending on like how far you're already in, but you can save the time. So that's then the business area. That's why business is outside. Business entrepreneurship is outside. It's basically there's the bridge of self-development to entrepreneurship. For self-development, it's 4. And then for professional growth, it's obviously then 1. But you use basically the inputs of self-development to then build your business. But you focus on self-development first and not on business, which is again money. So it's more an experience. We need to divide in a certain way. What are the categories in my life that I want to focus on? And yes, we can go mindset, communication, love and relationships and so on. After I went deeper and deeper and deeper, those are kind of like subcategories of the personal development, which then always can be subcategorized under those 4 categories. Like, I know my body, I know I have a heart, I know I have a brain, I know I have a mind. And then it's more easy maybe to say like, okay, those are the 4 areas. I have 24 hours. What are the things I want to invest my time in? Okay, 8 hours sleep goes in the category of body in a certain way, or like of mental health, of everything in a certain way. But 8 hours of sleep, then how much time do I want to invest in my relationships and stuff? So in love category, how much do I want to focus on mindset development? How much do I want to focus on new skills? So what are the things right now in those 4 different categories I want to improve? And by that, I can define the focus of my time and delegate it accordingly. Relationships, friends, family, and like how much for family, how much for friends, how much for da. But this way we can kind of like make it a little bit more simple in a certain way and scalable, because there will always be people with new topics, you know? In body, then you can put like so many things beside of mobility and workout and stretching. Then you can have meditation, what kind of stuff, you know? And business, you can now basically, you can also go and subcategorize business or wealth. We can call it wealth in this case, maybe even better. We call it wealth. And then we subcategorize it in community, in network, and solutions maybe. What we want to build in the outside is we want to have a network, we want to have a community, and we need to generate revenue in a certain way. So I think community would be a part of this, network would be a part of this, because community you build to teach them or to help them to move forward. Network you build to cooperate and get nice things done together. So you have the separation, because you need both in a certain way. One is basically the people who are learning from you, and the network is the people you are learning from and creating new stuff with, which again depends on your mental state, on your brain state. Like, it really depends then what skills, what knowledge do you have. Depends, like based on your skills and knowledge, you can create your community and network. Based on your mental state, it's going to define the community and network you can build. Based on your physical health, going to decide what kind of communities you can create and what kind of networks you can be part of. Because it's all basically your traits you bring to the table, and based on your traits and your current level of self-development, this will define the strength of your community, the strength of your network, and yeah, by that basically the strength of your personal brand at the end.